A late-night alarm, a solitary red light. A technician's routine inspection turns into a scene of horror. A human body found in a locked boiler with no clear way in or out. Was this the perfect crime? A tragic accident? Or something far more sinister? Let's piece together the clues of a mystery that still baffles investigators to this day. It was a typical night at the Bellingham paper mill until the faint buzz of an alarm broke the silence. Roy Harris, a technician finishing his shift, glanced at the control panel. A red light blinked next to boiler number 9. Since boiler 9 was a backup unit rarely used, Roy decided to check it out. He crossed the mill, passed a few workers, and reached the steam plant. From the outside, nothing seemed wrong. But as he climbed the metal steps and opened the hatch, a cloud of steam burst forth. Peering inside with his flashlight, Roy's heart seized in his chest. Gazing back at him from the depths of the boiler were the charred, hollow eyes of a human skull. Roy immediately called his supervisor, and within minutes, the area around Boiler 9 was sealed off. The local police arrived shortly after, followed by forensic investigators. Their first challenge was figuring out how the body ended up inside the boiler. Boiler 9 was only accessible through a single hatch, which was locked from the outside. There were no signs of forced entry, and security logs showed no unauthorized access that night. The body was too badly burned to identify visually, so investigators sent samples for DNA testing. Meanwhile, they interviewed employees, but no one had seen or heard anything unusual. Surveillance cameras covered most of the mill, yet none showed anyone approaching Boiler 9. This raised a troubling question. How could someone enter a locked boiler without being seen? Forensic teams examined the boiler's interior, looking for any clues. The intense heat had destroyed most evidence, but they found traces of melted fabric and a small metal object near the remains. The object appeared to be part of a key, but its damage made it hard to confirm. Investigators also checked the hatch's locking mechanism and found no signs of tampering. Security footage from previous days showed no suspicious activity near Boiler 9. The victim's identity was still unknown, adding another layer of mystery. As days passed, rumors spread among mill workers. Some believed it was an accident, someone trapped inside during maintenance. Others suspected foul play, suggesting the victim had been placed inside before the boiler was sealed. Police began focusing on employees who had access to Boiler 9, conducting background checks and looking for any past conflicts. They also considered whether someone could have hidden inside the boiler, though the extreme heat made survival impossible for long. Despite these efforts, no clear suspects emerged, and the victim's identity remained a mystery. Weeks later, the DNA results finally came back. The victim was identified as a former mill worker who had been fired months earlier for misconduct. His sudden reappearance inside the boiler raised even more questions. Had he returned to the mill undetected? Was he seeking revenge or trying to sabotage the equipment? And if so, how did he end up trapped inside? Over the years, several theories have emerged. The first theory was that the man had broken into the mill to sabotage the equipment. After being fired, he may have wanted revenge, believing that damaging Boiler 9 would disrupt operations and send a message to his former employers. Investigators speculated that he climbed into the boiler through the hatch, intending to tamper with its internal components. But somehow, the hatch closed behind him, leaving him trapped inside. However, this theory had problems. The hatch was designed to be sealed from the outside, making it unlikely that he accidentally locked himself in. Investigators found no evidence of anyone else at the scene, which raised more questions. Security cameras positioned at key entry points showed no signs of unauthorized access that night. The building's perimeter was secured, and none of the exterior doors had been forced open. Even if the man had found a way inside, navigating through the mill's maze of machinery and restricted areas without being detected seemed nearly impossible. The second theory pointed to foul play. Some believed that someone had forced the man into the boiler and locked the hatch, turning the industrial equipment into a crime scene. Investigators questioned co-workers and supervisors, searching for possible motives. Could someone at the mill have held a grudge against him? Despite thorough interviews, no one reported any suspicious behavior or conflicts that could explain such a violent act. Without signs of a struggle, evidence of forced entry or clear suspects, the theory of murder remained unproven. The third theory focused on the man's mental state. After losing his job, he may have returned to the mill feeling desperate and disoriented. Investigators considered the possibility that he climbed into the boiler, unaware of the danger. Yet this scenario raised questions. Why would he choose Boiler 9, a rarely used unit located away from the main work areas? And how did he access the restricted area without anyone noticing? Even if he had slipped past security, the boiler's design made it difficult to open and close the hatch from inside. In 2006, a nearby factory worker claimed he had heard rumors that the deceased was a teenager from New York, abandoned by his friends after a tragic fall. Local youths were known to sneak into the mill at night, climbing its rooftops and racing across narrow beams for a rush of adrenaline. It wasn't uncommon for them to dare each other to get as close as possible to the towering boilers. Investigators considered the possibility that one of these late-night adventures had gone horribly wrong. The teenager may have slipped, falling through an open hatch into Boiler 9. His friends, panicked and afraid of getting caught, could have fled the scene without reporting the accident. If true, this theory explained how the victim ended up inside the boiler without any signs of forced entry or foul play. However, this version of events raised its own questions. The mill had security measures in place, and cameras covered most entry points. How had the group gotten inside without being seen? And if the accident had happened months before the discovery, how had no one noticed anything unusual? Finally, some workers believed the explanation was beyond logical understanding. Boiler 9 had a reputation for strange occurrences. Unexplained noises echoing through empty corridors, lights flickering without cause, and sudden equipment failures that maintenance crews couldn't explain. Tools would disappear, only to reappear days later in odd places. Some workers even reported feeling as if they were being watched when no one else was around. Over the years, whispers of something unnatural lurking within the mill spread among employees. Some believed the boiler itself was cursed, holding the restless spirit of someone who had died there long ago. Others thought the entire mill was built on land with a dark history, trapping energy that couldn't be explained. The discovery inside Boiler 9 only strengthened these beliefs. To those who trusted their instincts more than logic, the charred figure found within the boiler wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a sign that something unseen was at work in the shadows of the mill. Even though investigators found no evidence of paranormal activity, the chilling rumors refused to fade. Workers who once dismissed the stories began questioning their own late-night experiences. Despite countless hours of investigation, none of these theories could be proven. With no witnesses, no clear evidence, and no logical explanation, the case eventually faded from headlines. Yet, for those who worked at the mill, the unsettling discovery in Boiler Stack 9 became a story they would never forget. Decades have passed since the discovery in Boiler Stack 9, and the paper mill has long since closed and fallen into disrepair. With no new evidence and the victim's remains laid to rest, the case has faded into obscurity. Who do you think was the man found in Boiler Stack 9, and what led him to such a tragic and terrifying fate? Let us know in the comments. Don't like this video, and definitely don't subscribe. You wouldn't want weekly doses of mind-blowing mysteries, creepy legends, and unexplained events, would you? Yeah, I didn't think so. And whatever you do, don't click on the video above. Unless you want to uncover the secrets they don't want you to know.